Tell Us About Yourself is sponsored by bonusround.ca, streaming Canada's classic game shows on demand. Dive into the golden age of television with thousands of episodes of Canadian series that defined an era from anywhere in the world, all for just $1.99 a month. From iconic shows like Let's Make a Deal and Definition to cult classics like Bumper Stumpers and The Mad Dash, bonusround.ca brings you timeless entertainment that's fun, enlightening, and affordable. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, relive the magic of Canadian television history. Subscribe now at bonusround.ca for $1.99 and turn every night into game show night. And by The Inn at Leola Village. Nestled in the heart of picturesque Pennsylvania, the Inn at Leola Village is a sanctuary of luxury and relaxation. Indulge in the timeless beauty of their historic suites, each meticulously designed to transport you to a bygone era of elegance and grace. Experience the culinary delights of their award-winning Italian restaurant, where every dish is a masterpiece crafted from the finest local ingredients. From romantic getaways to corporate retreats, the Inn at Leola Village offers a haven for every occasion. Unwind at the spa, stroll through the lush gardens, and let the stress of everyday life melt away. Make your reservation today at theinnatleolavillage.com or call the front desk at area code 717-656-7002. The Inn at Leola Village, an oasis of luxury. Tell Us About Yourself, Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, one of the largest history museums in the United States, and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700.
Blue 35.
Tell us about yourself, would you?
Tell us something about you.
For any new viewers, why don't you tell us again about yourself?
We've met before, but let's meet again. Tell us about yourself.
What else can you tell us about yourself?
Perhaps you'd fill us in again and tell us about yourself.
But do I want to? No way.
Hang on to it. Good. All right. That means you have $50,043 in cash and stuff, all right? Now when we add the car, $69,923 in cash. Thank you so much. Car, and here's your trophy for you and your school, Brandon. Give him a hand. He's our champion.
My name is Brandon Brooks. I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, but I have been in Chicago for, maybe almost 20 years. And I work in human resources for a nonprofit.
Brandon, tell me what game shows meant to you before the times when you were a contestant, before you were able to experience game shows in that way. What did this type of TV mean to you growing up?
Oh, goodness. Well, my earliest memory from a game show, I think, was I probably was 3 years old, and I remember watching, I think it was Tic-Tac-Toe, and it scared the heck out of me because I remember I remember the dragon and all, but I also remember a lot of the flashing lights, and that mesmerized me. And as I grew older, I always just liked seeing people have fun and be excited. And I just happened to learn things along the way as well. So flashing lights, happiness, jumping up and down, it really drew me into all that. And I just developed my love ever since then. And I don't know, they give me so much joy.
What about Tic-Tac-Toe scared you? Was it the lights and that energy? Like before you knew how to process it, it was just scary?
The dragon.
The dragon, of course.
Yeah,
the dragon is horrifying. Yeah,
oh, my goodness.
You know what had the same effect on me when I was about 3 or 4 years old was the whammy on Press Your Luck. Used to scare the hell out of me, and I loved the show. But whenever the whammy came up, I would turn my back. I would not look at the TV. I would cover my ears until it was over. Yeah, I used to be horrified of the whammy.
Yeah, I didn't have that issue with the whammy. I would always laugh at the whammy, but the dragon really, and it was just the earliest memory. It was so faint. I think the show, it was the Wink Martindale show. I think it might have been the last year. Either it was a rerun or whatnot, but I remember that, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? But then, you see all the happiness and dispersed between. I didn't know how the game went. Obviously, at 3, I didn't know what they were doing. But it was an experience for me. And I also just like learning things along the way. You would hear a lot of trivia, and I just would absorb information that way. I'm huge into TV, and yeah.
Yeah, game shows I think have that effect that, they'll get you interested in all the surrounding areas. It got me interested in TV, in production, in trivia, in math, all kinds of things that, that game shows are such a great launch pad for. So you would consider yourself like a game show nerd. Like I'm a game show nerd. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, you're like a 10? Are you above a 10?
I'm probably, I would say a 9 or maybe an 8. There's so many in the community that know a lot of the stats, and I know more than most. I know more than a lot of my friends and family, but I think you're probably, in a good way, I think you may even be a deeper game show nerd than I am, but I would soak any and every single game show I could up growing up. So,
well, let's put this to the test. Tell me a little bit of information. Tell me a piece of information that if you were to say this to somebody that wasn't one of us, they would be like, holy shit, how did you know that? Give me like a piece of info that fits into that category.
Oh, goodness. So, I don't know if there's a piece of information. I know when I was in college, so I was in college around, early 2000s and all. And by that time, I'd amassed a game show thing collection, probably about 530 separate game show things. Obviously different, different versions of the same show and all. And I would tell people that, and they would be floored, and I can tell them the era of a game show theme. I could talk to them about and I also was into other TV things as well, but game show things was my thing, and people just thought it was weird, and I didn't care because I loved what I loved. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's another thing. So that's great that we're talking about that, because speaking of how watching game shows can get you interested in all kinds of secondary material, I feel like appreciating the music on a game show has the potential to bring you to all sorts of genres of music. I have this immense love of jazz fusion, and I trace that back to listening to the music on The Price is Right, getting an appreciation for that kind of music, even outside of the context of the show. Because, and I'll talk about The Price is Right in particular, because that's a show that's very close to my heart. You listen to the music outside of the context of the show, and you realize just how like beautifully orchestrated it is. I mean, there's so much that goes into a piece of music that'll play for maybe 10 seconds. I got a chance to talk to Ed Calahoff a few months ago.
Really?
He had released he released an album of a bunch of his like unused game show music from the 70s. And so Cory Anotado with BuzzerBlog set it up so that I got a chance to interview him on Zoom, and I wrote an article about it, but I talked to him for about 2 hours, and just being able to pick his brain and talk about all of it. I mean, you realize just how much science goes into good incidental music of that nature.
So many layers. There were so many layers of the songs of the 70s and 80s and even some of the 90s. And you're right. I wouldn't know about a lot of the genres if I didn't listen to these themes all the time. And one of the things I hate to say, I complain about, especially the new crop of like these Fremantle shows, which I adore. They are a game show classic fans. Like Utopia, however, these themes are just not as good. Like that Pressure Luck theme, it's too synthesized. It's too flat. So, any rate,
for sure.
I'm nitpicking.
Yeah, no, but I understand because I love music, and I feel like you could say the same thing about popular music in general. How there was a different charm to it back when there were imperfections, and it wasn't all run through a computer, and it wasn't all synthesized and processed and sweetened and all that. So I understand 100%. Yeah, I mean, you listen to even like the theme song of The Price is Right. Like if you were to take it apart. So much instrumentation in this music that it's so rich. I feel like rich is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and the 2008 update, when the update with Drew, I think it's really replicates that. I like that version of the theme as opposed to this newest version of the Pressure Luck theme. It just seems really flat. And so anyway, I really like music as well. And so that also helped me, like I said, get into different genres of music, like loop synthesizers. What the hell is that? But I found myself listening to just random songs with moods in it.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's such a versatile instrument. And for even back in the day, I mean, I mentioned it when I talked to Ed, but like it must have felt like you were part of the future. I mean, using a computer to produce music back in 1969, 70, 71 is like crazy sort of abstract thought back then.
Oh wow, you had me nerding out so much. Oh my goodness.
Well, good. Listen, this is the space to do that. I've talked to so many people who have like listened to the podcast, and they always say the episodes where it's just you talking about game shows with another person who likes game shows are my favorite. So I'm trying. I want to endeavor to do more of those. There are so many people in this community who have had this sort of contestant experience that have that level of knowledge that you and I do. And, I'm sure you've had this experience knowing people in the community, but there is something so joyous about being able to talk very deeply about a subject that you care about with someone else who also cares about it to that depth. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I light up and everything. I have a friend here in Chicago who I talk to, and we just get together, we nerd out. I have a couple friends in Chicago that we talk to. There's a few people here, but we just nerd out and just volley off of each other. And oh my goodness, I get excited about game shows. I'm not excited. It's a double negative. Well, whatever. But I am. Sure. I am. I live my normal life. Game shows is not as prominent in my life as it used to be. But when I get around, a couple folks, my goodness, I just get like, oh my goodness, did you see that? I was, do you remember that? I was excited about that. And it's not like a trivia contest of who knows more. It's literally like you're talking to someone, you're getting more and more excited about it. So,
oh yeah, it was like
yeah.
having a really nice bike, right? You don't get to take it out all the time, but when you do, it's like just for a beautiful day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
Did you have many friends that were into this kind of thing growing up? I didn't. I don't think I had any in real life.
Not at all. No.
Yeah.
I think my people were happy that I was happy, that I was into something, and sometimes I would get a little ridiculed for it. But no, not really. And that's okay. I still stuck to my guns. So I'm like, I like what I like. This is what, and it also helped. I like TV in general. Like I would absorb a lot of TV. There's a show I remember on HBO, which I probably shouldn't have been watching, called Dream On. And I don't know if you've heard of this, but the protagonist would, I think this is correct, he would kind of zoom out and think about classic TV shows in his situations. So, he may be on a date with a woman. He may be on a date with a woman, and then he'll go to maybe a Bonanza episode to think about a certain, I don't know, something that applies to that date. He'll come back into focus. And so I remember that, and I think it's called Dream On. I think
you're right, because I think you just unlocked like a core memory. Like that's like way in the back of my mind somewhere.
Yeah,
that I don't know that I ever saw the show. Yeah, like I don't know that I ever saw the show, but I remember seeing Dream On. Like I remember that title. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, it was when I was younger, and I probably shouldn't have been watching it because there was some adult things, whatever. But that's sometimes the things I would do is I would zoom out and think about other things. Like I would think about a game show or think about another show or something like that and come back in. So people were happy that I love TV. I didn't watch too much inappropriate television. My main things were game shows and PBS. And so,
oh, that's wonderful. Your parents had nothing to worry about.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch too much stuff. Like I'll pick up some things here and there, but yeah, I was a real like trivia nerd, and like learning, and I learned a lot through game shows. And so no one else was really as into them as I was, but no one really poo-pooed it or anything like that. So
well, that's good. It's good to be encouraged in a narrow hobby like that. That's so. I wonder if you have any insight on this. And I don't know the answer to it. Do you think that everyone in our community who loves game shows to this degree, do you think everybody who loves game shows to that degree also wants to be a game show host? Do you think that those go hand in hand?
I know I can speak for me personally. I don't want to be a game show host. I sometimes pretend and I run through things in my head about, spiels, the price of the price. Let's ask the announcer, what was the one with Wheel of Fortune? Top dollar value is $500. Beware that black space over there, bankrupt. All that type of stuff. I'll run that.
Yeah, the rules, right? Yeah.
The rules in my head. But with me and everything with game shows, going behind the scenes takes the allure away from me. So being a host, working on a show, doing anything other than being a contestant or audience member just makes it less special for me personally. So I may be unusual, but I don't want to be a host. I want to watch what's going on. I want to be a contestant. So
yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, I've always wanted to be a game show host. That's been like my lifelong for as long as I've been around. But I always wonder if like those two go hand in hand, because I feel like game shows are a very aspirational sort of form of entertainment. Like they are made for you to watch them and not only enjoy them, but imagine yourself there, which is why I think a lot of people become contestants. They watch it from home and they go, oh, I can do that. Or they, in the case of something maybe like Millionaire, it's like this sort of achievement show, or Jeopardy, where there's this sort of pedigree to it and people just want to experience that for themselves. Yeah, I always just wondered, some people want to be as involved in this industry as they can be. I don't know how much I want to be involved in it. I think that there's always a danger of taking something that you enjoy and making it your job, and suddenly being familiar with it to the degree that you're familiar with a job, and there are like frustrations and there are worries and there are deficiencies, just all kinds. You know what I mean? I don't know that I would want to. It's like loving pizza. I don't know that I want to make pizza for 8 hours a day, but I love to eat it. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny you say that. Yeah, I have that fear. So when I was in college, the academy did these internships in various areas of television. And one of the areas was in game shows. So you would apply for this internship and it had a stipend. And, I remember, applying for it, actually creating a tape. I had one of my friends in school tape me while I'm answering these questions, and you could potentially get an internship on I'm assuming somewhere in the game show field. And I can't recall if I was a finalist or not. I think I might have been, but I wasn't chosen. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but
no,
I
never.
wasn't chosen. It was. I remember this. I was not chosen, and I ultimately was very, very happy that I wasn't chosen, because one, I don't think I would be able to participate in any of these game shows that I have, and two, I think a little bit of the luster of the game show would have gone away being behind the scenes for me. So, yeah, I tried for it.
And in any of your contested experiences, we'll talk about them individually going forward.
Sure.
But when you look back on them, because you've had several, were there any moments in those experiences where you felt like the luster was sort of stripped away? Or is there something about that role of contestant that you're still sort of in on the magic of it?
I will not name the show, but one show in particularly jaded me about the process and everything behind the scenes. I still was glad and excited to be on the show, but it's not that I would not go on another game show. I have gone on another game show, but it was being behind the scenes and seeing how everything worked in the background. It kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I can probably guess what show you're talking about, but I won't.
I don't want to, it hurt my chances, but it was still great. It was still a wonderful experience. It is an experience of a lifetime to ever be on one game show, let alone 4. So
sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I say that to people all the time who ask me, how I was able to. Because I've been on 6.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm not bragging at all, but I'm
no, I know
about,
you're not.
People ask me like, how do you get on to be so many? And you just audition, and like, if it never happens again, I'm perfectly okay. Like, I have had more than my fair share of experiences in this world. Like, they're not all going to be mine, and that's perfectly okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't have to go on another game show.
No, we're good.
This has been a good ride for me.
Absolutely. Tell me about when you first thought about becoming a contestant and went through that process and applied or sent to the postcard. However that worked. What was your first experience with that process?
All right. So I'll start with a little bit of a downer, but it ends up really good. So I came here to go to college. I went to Northwestern, and my first day of classes here, my mom died unexpectedly. So for my entire, I think, freshman year, I was in a blur, very, very sad, trying to struggle in an environment. I'm originally from Memphis. I went to Chicago. I don't have family here. No idea, Evanston specifically, but I'm trying to figure things out, and things started kind of coming into place my sophomore year. I started being able to get on my own 2 feet, and Northwestern, at Northwestern, I think the first game show I ever auditioned for was Wheel of Fortune. They had not the Wheelmobile, but it was some sort of setup in which they went into one of our auditoriums. You can stand the line, go spin the wheel, and I think you could spin the wheel and solve a puzzle. And I was like, well, I might as well just try it. I like game shows. There's nothing to stop me from it. It was a fine experience. It just felt like another cog in the wheel. But I said, oh, I did that. That was cool. And then Hollywood Squares came to campus a few months later. And I said, well, I like the show. The show's good enough. Let's try this. And there were not many people who auditioned at all. I think it was in a room of maybe 30 people. And I went there, was very excited about it. I love game shows in general, so I was excited to be there, and they asked us a bunch of questions. But I was like, this is a great experience. I don't expect anything from this. And a couple of months later, they called me when I was in a family's place in Atlanta. And they called my phone, and they said, you're going on the show. And I was over the moon. And I say all this is because just a year and a half ago, it was so kind of dark and sad for me. And just in that time, it became like, right, I have something to live for. I have purpose. I'm so excited to do this, and I can do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what an incredible power shows like that have, right? I mean, it's the positivity. And growing up, loving game shows to the degree that you've described and to the degree that I've described, not only here but in other episodes, because we both like this kind of thing. I feel like it almost, how do I put this? I feel like it almost attunes you to like a natural sense of positivity. Like it gives you an optimistic outlook, like as your default. Do you know what I mean? And that's all I watched for maybe like 4 hours a day, every day until I started going to school. And even after that, once Game Show Network became a thing, I was watching them even more. You just get so accustomed to positivity, a positive outlook, a positive outcome. This will be okay. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's easier to be optimistic when you grow up around sort of like relentless optimism.
Yeah, and life was not easy. Everyone has their own backstory. I don't want to go into the whole backstory, but life was unstable for me growing up. And one of the things that kept me stable, honestly, was game shows. It's so weird to even hear that back, but it was it. And to know that I was going to go on. Oh, also, I knew I was going to meet Whoopi Goldberg. And The Color Purple was one of my favorite films of all time. I've seen it so many times, and I was jumping up and down. I was like, I'm going to meet Whoopi Goldberg.
Because she was the center square on the version that you were on.
Yeah, so I got on the show the last year that she was center square, and I was so excited to be on there. Oh, goodness gracious. So
unbelievable.
Awesome. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think that what you described, Brandon, is true for a lot of kids of that generation, that they found stability in the shows that they enjoyed. And I can only speak to game shows to that extent, because that's the type of TV that I grew up watching. But there is something very calming about the idea that with the exception of the questions, the puzzles, the contestants, the show is pretty much the same day in, day out. When you talk about a good game show, and I think The Price is Right is a good example of that. I think Jeopardy is a great example of that. Even Hollywood Squares, it's the same show. It's the same game, different people, different questions. But there's some calm to be found in that, I think. Something to, at the same time every day, there is this familiar surrounding, these familiar hosts, familiar formats. Super calming, super relaxing, I think, to people who need it.
Absolutely. Exciting. Calming and exciting, too, I guess.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, like an exciting game, but I think that there's, peace to be found in the fact that it's the same surroundings day in, day out. You watch The Price is Right, it's going to be Bob Barker or Drew Carey standing in front of that, in front of the background. The intro is going to look the same. The music is going to hit at the same points in every episode. It's stable. It's stability.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Tell me about the audition process for Hollywood Squares. What did you have to do in order to become a contestant on that show?
Okay, if I recall, went into a room and The only thing I can kind of clearly recall is that they would call you up and they would ask you questions. You had to talk about yourself. So you started by introducing yourself, where you're from, who you are. And I didn't put on an act, but I really wanted to let them know I was excited to be there. I love game shows. This is awesome to do. I did not want to hold back. And so I just talked. And I remember they may have asked me a question or two and asked me if I agreed or not. But I think that audition was more personality driven. They wanted to know if you would come out of your shell, because quite honestly, it's not the most trivia. Well, that's not true, because they used to they had a bonus round that I played that was a rattle off of questions that were trivia. You had to give an answer to the question and whatnot. So they did have the bonus round in that era. But for that, they just wanted students to be able to come out of their shell and talk.
Right. Yeah, because the celebrities on that show can't do all the heavy lifting. But I think they also don't want people that will. I remember. Okay, so I was on Hip Hop Squares on MTV2.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, the only season where it was actual contestants instead of celebrities playing with celebrities kind of for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of the bits of advice they gave before we did the show. They showed us the set. They brought us upstairs to the green room, and we all filled out our paperwork and stuff and signed off on all the legal stuff that you have to do. And one of the pieces of advice they gave, they said, do not try to make a joke on this show. Play the game. Do not try to be funnier than the celebrities. They are professional comedians. And I remember the exact phrasing. He said, they are professionals. They will eviscerate you.
Oh, wow.
And I remember that, and that, you know what, to a certain degree, that's always sort of stuck in my head as like a general sort of rule of thumb. If you're ever the guest on somebody's show or you're ever with somebody who is there to be funny, don't try to be funnier than them. It looks like you're trying to steal their job, and that's not a good look,
So that is telling. They did not say that to us on Hollywood Squares, because I actually did. I want to see if I can remember this correctly. They wanted you to show your personality. They wanted you to speak up. They wanted you to talk and respond. And I ended up making a little bit of a joke. There was a callback joke to Whoopi made a joke about a burning bush. The burning bush had a double entendre. And so that was one tape day. I came back to do another tape day, and I made a joke in reference to what happened yesterday. Mm-hmm. They stopped tape and they all groaned. They were not happy. And so they stopped tape. They stopped tape. Yeah, they stopped tape, and then they obviously ended up cutting it out. And they said, yeah, don't do that again. And everyone in the square didn't know what I was talking about with the burning bush, because they all weren't there the day before it. And Whoopi got it, but it was all the other contestants that were there, all the other kids that were in college as well, they were like, wow, I cannot believe you did that. Well,
wow, that's so funny.
You only live once. I didn't do it again. I learned my lesson. So
good for you. Well, you know what's funny? Like, I feel like that's a moment that if we were talking about the Hollywood Squares of the 70s or the 80s, they would have left that in, because there wasn't that. I almost called it like a fear of letting viewers know that, we tape a few of these in a day and this is what happened yesterday. But I think that knowing more now about the way TV works, it's not a fear of like letting people know. It's so that they can rerun it at any time and it's not dated. So that's a good point.
I didn't think about that, actually. That's a really good thing. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think that's, and I've never got an official confirmation of this from anybody who works for a game show, but I think that's also the reason why we don't see too many returning champions anymore. I mean, a show like Jeopardy can get away with it because the 15 million people watch it every night. So, it's reasonable for them to assume you were watching yesterday. But I think that's why things like that don't happen anymore. It's so that they can run it on a weekend in syndication at 2:00 in the morning, and you don't require any context to understand it and appreciate it.
And I think that's a shame, quite honestly.
For sure.
With Wheel of Fortune, I think Wheel of Fortune definitely lends itself to, used to do returning champions for the longest time, and I still think it lends itself to that. They used to also do, I think it was a Friday finals. Was that what it was called?
Right. When they do like the Champions Day.
Yeah, and I even thought that was kind of good. I think I like seeing people do well, and if you keep doing well, you keep coming back on a limited basis. I don't want to see you all the time, but you keep coming back and doing well. I like that, but I understand.
Sure.
I understand syndication makes things a little different, and you make a good point.
I wonder why we don't see that infinite returning champion rule that they have on Jeopardy employed on a show like Wheel of Fortune, where there is that capacity to have somebody who can win 50 games of Wheel of Fortune in a row. I mean, regardless of the luck, I feel like a lot of people have been watching Wheel of Fortune for so long that there is this generation of like super puzzle solvers that can probably knock out 10 puzzles in a row with one letter showing if they have the opportunity.
I agree. I might like to see that. And also Wheel of Fortune does have an element of luck. And so a person can get knocked off if the wheel doesn't go their way, if the things don't align. So it's still, you may not have those long 50 lens and everything, but you may have long enough to keep people watching and keep people engaged. Yeah,
I guess that's true. Yeah, because the element of luck on the wheel is really what it comes down to at the end of the day. You can know all the puzzles, but if you spin one bankrupt, the game can be out of your hands from that point on for the rest of the episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you get in the final, there's this final round and someone spends up $6,000, they get 5 letters and they solve it, and all the puzzles, all the work you've done earlier in the show just goes away.
Right. So, anticlimactic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
How were you treated as a contestant on Hollywood Squares?
Oh my goodness. It was the most amazing experience. Now, we were all college kids, so I was there for the college tournament, and there were, I think, 15 of us. I think that makes, somewhere around there, like maybe 12 or 15 of us. And it was the most awesome experience. I remember us getting a per diem. They put us up in this hotel. Hollywood Squares taped in CBS Television City, where Price is Right used to tape.
Right, at 33,
Yeah, at Studio 30. So there was the hotel right across the street, and we all just had fun together. And one of the coolest things, oh my goodness. So I bugged one of the contestant coordinators because I knew it. No, I think I knew it taped in the same studio, something like that. And one of the contestants coordinators was like, "Oh, do you all want to go backstage and see all the props that they use for The Price is Right?"
Yup.
Oh my God. Now, the other kids were not as excited. I was flipping out. And so one of the tape days between either before or whatever, we went back there. We all went back there, and I got to see all the props. I took pictures of a lot of the props too. I spun the big wheel. I actually spun the actual big wheel. It was not covered up. I did get $1 on that big wheel.
Oh, amazing.
It was insane me looking at stuff in person. When I got there and saw some of the things in person, though, I was like, oh, this is a little ragged. Oh, goodness, there's tape chipping up here. Oh, you don't see that on TV.
You don't. Oh, my God. When I went to the show and I saw, first of all, it was most apparent in 2 areas. One, so the big doors opened to reveal a prize, and that was like the first item of forbid. So he just pointed to the door, and I didn't hear anything. All you hear is the crowd. He pointed to the door. I looked. The door opened. As he's saying, the one of you 4 who bids closest to the actual retail price of this, whatever it was, without going over. While he's talking, the doors are closing, and it sounds like a pirate ship. It's just like this. And I'm looking around like, nobody hears this? Is that the right sound for this? And he's just going on, Bob is just talking as if he's been hearing this for 35 years, which apparently he had. And then the side of the wheel that you spin, which I don't know if you remember this part of it or if it was well lit enough, it's really scratched up and banged up because you never see it on camera. So they never really maintain that side of it. There were like stagehands initials in it and shit. It was, None of it was made for HD TV, I think is what it was.
Of course not. And I don't remember. I don't remember I do remember the wheel, but I don't remember the condition of the wheel. I just remember the condition of a lot of the other props and a lot of the pricing games. I mean, this is, oh, okay. Well,
yeah, yep.
This is still so cool to look at it. And I was touching stuff. It was insane back then that I could actually go and touch things that would never happen nowadays, where you can go and touch props and things. Maybe if you have super exclusive status, but you can never do that nowadays. And so that was the coolest part of my trip. And they treated us so wonderfully. They were so nice, and they knew that we were just all kids having an experience. So that's so wonderful. That was my best experience, my best contestant handling experience that I've had. So,
so glad to hear that.
Yeah, it was great.
Isn't it funny in that experience when you're with other people and you're flipping out about seeing all these Price is Right props and everybody else sounds like they're sort of passive about it? I know that everybody likes what they like, and some people like game shows and some people don't. You ever just wonder how the hell somebody can't get excited to something like that? Like, how are you not excited right now? You know what I mean? Like, regardless, right? Like, regardless of how you feel about The Price is Right or how often you watch it or whether you know all the stats and all that, whether you're a hardcore fan of it or not, it's just so exciting to see things that you've seen on TV for so long in person. That's just so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. It does give me a little bit of a rush when you see someone there playing, and especially when you get the anticipation of them potentially winning, and they do. It's great.
Oh yes, absolutely. One of the souvenirs that I brought home from The Price is Right when I went, because I was in Studio 33 like you, and it was right before Bob Barker retired, and so the show had been in that room for 35 years, and it was still all the original props. They didn't, digitize any of the stuff the way they did like when Drew Carey took over. It was still a lot of the original stuff. I went up and poked my head around contestants row as the audience was loading in, and I went, oh my God, this is it. These are the screens. This is where they show the prices. This is the thing that lights up, goes ding, like, this is it. And I took off my name tag. I had my, my big pricing, my big price tag name tag. I took it off my shirt, and I put it on the rightmost screen, which I think was blue, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember what color it was. But I realized that the color on the screens were fabric. And something in my head said, take your name tag off, put it on the screen, and tear it off. And get some of that color on the back of the name tag. So that's what I did. And then I put it on the screen, took it off, put it back on my shirt, and we did the show. But to this day, I use that as a bookmark in some of the books that I read. I still have my name tags. And if you look in the back, it's still the color of the screen on Contestants Row.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if I've ever told anybody that, but
that's awesome that you had that forethought. That's cool. I wish I was on any of my game shows. I wish I was more thoughtful like that, but that is so cool.
Well, I don't even think it was forethought. It's just something in the moment. Like, I wasn't planning on doing that. I'm not a psychopath, but like, it just something in my head was like, preserve this. Like, those were the words, just like, preserve this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just that,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, please. I did ask when I was on Hollywood Squares. I did ask if I can have my name tag. Not the name tag, but I don't know what you call that. It's the placard or whatever.
Oh, the nameplate that's in front of you on your podium, right?
Yeah, I did ask them if I could have it. They're like, absolutely not. But I should have gotten it because they ended up changing the set and everything the next year. So
why did they say no? What are they have another branded on?
And at the time I taped, I'm almost certain that they probably knew that Whoopi was leaving, and so I wish I could have had that, but it's okay.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. When I was on Match Game, I asked for I lost the super match, but I wanted the card. That said boat. It was Tug Blank, and Mario Cantone said Tugboat. I just wanted the card, so on my way out, they're already recording another episode as I'm leaving. So I asked the person escorting me, I said, can I have the card that had my answer on it? And she kind of went, no. And I guess it's because they saw some on eBay, and they didn't want contestants going and sell their card. I guess I get it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad.
I know. Petty. But anyway, you took home something much more valuable than your name placard from Hollywood Squares.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So my memory is foggy. I should have looked it up before I spoke with you, but it was almost $70,000 of the cash and prizes. And it came at a good time because I needed money. I was in school, poor kid, a scholarship, but they don't give you that much. And so it really helped me out for rent and for food. And to go back to when my mom died, I couldn't afford to get her a headstone. And so I took some of the winnings. It was 47,000, something like that. I took some of the winnings and bought my mom a headstone so I know where she was located.
Oh my God.
It was the car I won. I won a Chevy Tracker, and I didn't even have my driver's license then, and I could never have gotten a car. My mom, I couldn't have gotten a car otherwise. And so I won that car, and I learned how to drive, and I took it. And I had it on campus when I was a junior. So
wow, that changed your life.
It did.
Wow.
It literally changed my life, Christian. It changed my life.
Oh my God. The sense or feeling of accomplishment that you must have experienced from being able to do something like provide a proper marking for your mom.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, people talk all the time about what the winnings do for contestants, who win thousands of dollars, and you always hear about the show busy stuff. You always hear about, I'm going to pay all my bills and I'm going to go on vacation, but there's like real stuff that happens as a result of winning big money like that.
Yeah. This was. And just talking to you and thinking about that, oh my goodness, that was, that was very meaningful to me to be able to do that. And I blew a little bit of it. I got a new computer, got a new Dell at the time, with probably 128 megs of RAM. So that was awesome.
Speed demon.
I was more crazy. I went crazy back then. Let me tell you.
That's right.
I got a flat screen monitor. Oh my gosh! I was.
Breaking the bank. That's amazing. Might even have 100 megabyte hard drive on that.
Yeah. Oof. No, don't go there. They had gigabytes, and I think I upgraded it to the 20 gigabyte hard drive.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to age you. I'm sorry.
Don't offend me now. Don't offend me now. But
I'm so sorry. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And you must have been. You must have been the hero on campus once everybody found out that you won all of this money on this show.
No.
Oh. All right, never mind.
I don't think college kids cared as much about game shows as I did. So I was in the fraternity, right? And I was the one in the fraternity. This is crazy. So we would do lunch. We had like a room where we all would do lunch in the middle of the day. And it would always be like some type of random show on. And I was the one who told them, you all are going to put this on GSN while I'm here. I will always change it to GSN. And so they started watching it. And the only people that were really excited about it were the people in my fraternity, because they would start watching game shows. I would talk to them about, I think Pressure Luck did come back on GSN at that time. But here's Pressure Luck. And they were like, oh my goodness, I vaguely remember this. And, and I was showing some other episodes. They think maybe Let's Make a Deal might have been on GSN at that time. And they knew I was a game show nerd, and they got very, very excited for me. But other people did too at our campus. But it definitely wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if that's a unique experience, because when I was on Million in my freshman year of college, that's damn near all anybody was talking about. For that one, I was on a Friday, and then the horn sounded, so I had to come back for the next episode that was on Monday. That whole weekend, that's all anyone was talking. The website, this is Southern Connecticut State University, the website for the school took down their ad about rolling admissions and replaced it with a big big picture of my big ass face on the front of the website for the whole weekend, and I was so embarrassed.
I think so. What year were you on?
I taped in 2009. It aired in 2010.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So I don't think when I was on, if I were on Millionaire, so I went to school 2004. So I was on Hollywood Squares in 2002, and if I were on Millionaire in 2002, or if I were on Jeopardy in 2002, it would have been a bigger deal. But Hollywood Squares, I don't think kids knew, they didn't catch it as much. They didn't see it as much as it wasn't as known as those other shows that I'd been on. So I probably would have been smeared everywhere if I was won Jeopardy or if I was on Millionaire. So I think that's why.
Yeah, I think
okay.
Jeopardy and Millionaire appeal more, I think, to college age. I think for some reason Hollywood Squares had a reputation as an older people show. Maybe because the humor was a little more, not higher level. It was still kind of bawdy and raunchy and stuff, but it was more adult oriented. I remember in 5th grade saying something about I like Hollywood Squares because it had just come back. I remember this girl next to me went, "Oh, my dad watches that show." It just had that reputation, I guess.
So.
Yeah.
And when it came on in Chicago, it was on during prime time. So either 6 or 6:30, and you're not watching. If you're going to watch a game show in prime time, it's probably going to be with Fortune and Jeopardy. But also the kids that I was around, they would watch Seinfeld for some reason. I hate Seinfeld. I'm sorry.
Kids would watch Seinfeld?
Oh my gosh, they loved Seinfeld back then. I had no idea. Well, when I was there, it only been off for a few years, and so maybe it was still relevant. But I say kids, we're all adults and everything, but they would love watching that show or Simpsons or some stuff, and they would never. So I could never get them to watch game shows in the evening. I can get them to watch it in the midday, the afternoon. So, but I don't think a lot of them just knew what Hollywood Squares was. I knew. I didn't see the Davison version. I'm sorry, I didn't see the Marshall version growing up because I was born after that. But the Davison version, oh my God, I remember that so fondly. I loved that version. And so I was familiar with it. I was able to kind of get into it when I was also on the show. And they had no idea what I was talking about. They didn't know that. And they had no idea what Hollywood Squares was until they knew the love of my game. I'm talking about the people in my fraternity specifically.
Sure.
They knew the love of game shows and how much I liked it. That, oh, this is another game show that Brandon's excited about. We don't know what it is, but cool. And he won a lot of money and he got a trophy. Yay. So, but anyway, but the other kids on campus, it's like, oh, you won, wow, that's awesome. You won so much money. That's really, really, really cool. What's Hollywood Squares? So.
Right. Yeah, there are shows that have that appeal that Hollywood Squares did. And it was also, none of the celebrities on there were people that we were watching as excuse me. None of the celebrities on Hollywood Squares were people that we were watching as kids or as young adults. They weren't, Nickelodeon celebrities. It was, Martin Mull and Bruce Valanche and Caroline Ray and,
right,
people on the adult shows.
Right. Who knows who they? I obviously knew who they were, but who knows who those people are? I was most excited to meet Whoopi Goldberg, but I also watched the show, so I was also excited, tangentially excited to meet them too.
Sure. Well, tell me about meeting Whoopi Goldberg. Did you get to meet her face to face?
So in that version of Hollywood Squares, so whoever won the game would get to pick a celebrity and go down and answer a bunch of questions within a minute. And I did it 3 times. So I won my first game, I won the semifinal, and I won the final. So every time I picked Whoopi Goldberg, and I would just geek out every time I would see her. I at first got a little bit, I clammed up. But then when I knew I was playing for money and I need to be on TV, I would open right on up. It was so cool meeting her. She was funny. She was very, very nice. So I would love to meet her again. But it was, so that was the only that was the only celebrity I spoke to in depth. We all saw, at least the ones that were going back through O'Hare, through Chicago, we all saw in the airport Cedric the Entertainer. He was on one week of the shows, and we talked to him. He recognized me. He was like, "Oh, you're the kid that won all that money. Congratulations, man! You're awesome." And so we got to talk to him at the airport, but you couldn't talk to any of the celebrities while you were there. So those are only two people I interacted with.
Oh, worth it though, especially Whoopi, who you wanted to meet this whole time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! If I only got to do it one time, if I only got to meet her once on the show, that would have been great. That would have been good enough. But I got to talk to her 3 times.
Who was hosting Millionaire when you were a contestant on that show?
Oh my goodness, Meredith Vieira.
Oh, wasn't she great? Wasn't she great?
She was the best host to meet. She was so sweet and so kind, and I loved interacting with her. So were you on the show with Meredith?
I was on with Meredith, yeah.
Okay, so
yep.
I'm assuming you also got the thank you note, right?
Oh, I have it in my desk drawer in my office to this day.
Goodness.
I will always cherish
so
that.
Touched. And
yes.
I would like to, I'm hoping that it's her. I hope she wrote it. But for folks that don't know, she wrote a thank you note to every contestant that appeared on the show.
Yes, she did.
And I got it in the mail, and I was like, I love you. You're the best. You're the best ever. She was so just kind and motherly, and yeah, she was great.
Motherly. Wow,
yeah.
That's a great word for how she was on that show.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great word for it, because she was so warm, and she cared. It's funny. She cared, I think, about the contestants on that show the way a lot of people in our community love the way Drew Carey is caring about his contestants these days on The Price is Right. Where there's that, like, I'm going to transcend that role of host. I am another human wanting you to be successful in this thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And it takes away,
that.
Yeah, like it takes away so much of the like potential embarrassment. Because I don't know if this was your situation when you were a millionaire as well.
Oh, sure.
But somehow the common fear among all the contestants that were getting ready to go up that day, I was just one of, I don't even remember, maybe 10, 15 people. The common fear was that I'm going to get one of the first questions wrong and walk away with 0. I'm going to misread one of the easy ones. I'm going to get it wrong, and I'm going to be on YouTube. Like, that was the big fear. And something about the way she guided us through that experience, I didn't feel like there was any capability for that. I was like, I'm in good hands, you know?
I agree. That was my biggest fear. And I felt kind of propped up in the way I saw the first question. I answered it right. I said, you know what? I belong here. This works. I can do this.
Yep. And even in the context of that environment, because it's a very intimidating environment. I mean, 300 people, like, their eyes are on you, and you can't look away because they're all around you.
Yeah.
You know?
That was the most nerve-wracking game show I was on with Be Millionaire.
Yeah, same here. And I wish, you know, I've said it a few times on this show, but I wish I'd gotten a good night's sleep because I was so excited to do it the following day. And I wish I had paid more attention to the game rather than the fact that I was on the show. Because I think I could have done better had I prepared for that part of it.
Yeah, when I was on the show, I was consistently doubting myself, and I burned through all 3 of my lifelines. It didn't need to. I knew the answers to all 3 lifelines that I used, but you never know. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. So at that time they had, I think they called it the Super Mix format, and you had to answer so many questions to get to the milestone. And I was one question away. I was at the last question, and if I would have gotten it right, I would have hit the milestone of, you know, whatever it was at the time. I think $25,000.
Oh, when they randomized the amounts and the questions, right? Okay.
It was awful. I hated that version. But I got to the last question. I answered it wrong, and I fell all the way back down to $1,000. And that was so depressing, but having Meredith's presence there, she was really nice about it. But then they shoo you off stage, and so you can't really talk that much. So, go off stage, go. But
right. Well, see,
still
I got to I didn't get to hang out with her, but we did my Friday episode, and then the Time's Up thing sounded and says, "Oh, can you come back tomorrow?" Which tomorrow, is 5 minutes after you finish today. In between, they had us excuse me for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just clearing my throat.
Okay.
Between the episodes, they kind of ushered us to another area of the set to do a sort of cold open. And so I got to walk next to her and hang out with her for a little while. And she invited me out for pizza with her and her makeup artist. And I will never not say this. Talking about double negatives. I will never not say that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it never happened. But if she's free and she's listening, I'm still open. I guess I got to bring my wife with me now, but we can have some pizza.
That would have been so cool.
Oh yeah, she would have been so down for it. She was just so down to earth. I credit her with a lot of. She's one of the main reasons why I think I did as well as I didn't do great, but I brought home some money. Had it been a different host, I don't know how well I would have done. I just felt so cared for on that show.
I wish. I oh goodness. I would have. I remember what I was going to say. The only reason, not the only reason, I would really love to go to 25 Words or Less. So that's her current game show.
Right.
Just to meet her. I would love to I don't know if they're still separated or we're not on the same stage. They did a little COVID staging for a while. I don't know if they're still doing that, but I would just love to meet her again and talk to her because she seems like that is the type of person she is. She's just very warm and down to earth.
Oh, and she was. Oh, I feel like I have so many stories today for some reason, but I was with my wife in New York. It was the second tape day of the current Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And I had gotten tickets to that second episode. So my wife and I were in New York waiting for the call time for the audience. And we walked by 30 Rock, and who comes out of the lobby and gets into a car is Meredith Vieira.
No.
So I said just instinctively, I said, "Is that Meredith Vieira?" And she looked up and she said, "Hi, how are you?" And she didn't, I don't think she remembered who I was because she's dealt with so many people, But I got to tell her just how much that meant to me, just how much the experience meant and how much she played into that. And she was very, very appreciative of it. So let this be confirmation that off the set of Millionaire, she is just as nice.
I'm so jealous of you. So jealous of you.
It was a complete luck. It was just complete and total luck. And I got a picture with her, and my hair was all long and curly. I looked like a monster, but I'm glad to meet her again.
That is so awesome.
Tell me about your experience on Jeopardy. Tell me how that fits into your experience as a contestant in general. Is it looked back on fondly by you? Tell me about that.
So I will say all the game shows I've been on are fond. I look back on all of them fondly. Jeopardy was, it was a very good experience. I was the most intimidated, I think, on Jeopardy. Not nerve-wracking. I wasn't really crazy nervous. I was very, very intimidated. No trivia. I never thought that I was that good at trivia. I think I knew more than most. But I somehow got into the audition. I somehow did well. And then they called me back to be on the show. Within a few months. Usually it can take up to 18 months, I think. They called me back in 2 or 3 months. And I get there, and I will say Jeopardy is the smoothest production. It is top. It is just boom, 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 boom. So you audition, so they get you on, and you get there, you go into the green room, they have the spiel and everything that they talk to you about, and then they bring you on stage, you see the stage. It was just like clockwork. It was so professional. And everything was kind of a blur. So I was a 2-day champion. And so I actually taped over 2 days. So I appeared on the Friday episode of 1 week, then came the next week for 2 more episodes. and just top-notch experience. Got to go on stage, and I almost lost it when I saw Alex walk on stage, like melted. It's like
I don't blame you.
There in front.
Right.
He is sitting there in front of me. He is one of my favorite game show hosts, and he's sitting there reading questions, and he's walking around. I am like, you're a game show god, and he was personable. I think he knew who he was. And so he was not full of himself. He appeared just very confident and relaxed about who he was. And I was around him, talking to him, just nervous and shaking for him. The game, though, you go on, you gotta lock in, and you gotta do the best you can. And I locked in, did the best I could. And I'm not ashamed of how that went.
Well, you shouldn't be. Most people who go on Jeopardy, I would say 2 out of 3 people don't win on every episode. So, I mean, you're in very rare company, especially to have even won more than once. I would say there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
One of the aspects of Jeopardy that would make me nervous as a contestant is not knowing proper wagering strategy for Final Jeopardy, but remembering it in that minute or a couple of minutes that you have in that commercial break while you're writing your wager. Did you have any so did you have any trouble recalling any of that information? And what was your wagering strategy? What's the right way to do it if you employed it?
I don't know. So I tried looking up. I looked at JArchive, and I because they have all the types. They have a huge glossary of terms that they describe do Jeopardy, and they have wagering strategies there. And I don't know. I don't remember what I did. The first day I was on there, where was I? What place was I? I think I was in third place. If I recall correctly, I think I was in third place. No, I was in maybe second or third place. Yeah. But I knew I couldn't, I don't know what my strategy was. I was not confident that I was going to get the correct response, and I just wanted to cover third place. I think I could have covered first place, but I just wanted to cover third, and I was a little conservative there, and the other two did not know the response. And so when you look at me, if you watch my episode, you will see that I am you could knock me over with a feather. I don't think that you ask people like Reddit, he did a good betting strategy. He did a good wagering strategy. I don't think I would go down as doing a wonderful wagering strategy. The second game, I just bet to kind of cover the first, and the third. I knew by the third game they gave the final Jeopardy category, and I knew that it was done. I think it was first century AD history or something like that. I knew I was done. So I just right. And I was in the lead then, so I just bet to cover second place, and I'm just like, you know what, whatever. So I think I blanked when I got there on wagering strategy, which was pretty sad. I lucked out. So
yeah, well, that's a part of game shows that I feel like gets lost in the shuffle when you talk about the experience of being a contestant on a show. It's fine to have the strategies. It's fine to go in there knowing that if you're in second place, you wager enough to cover third place, or you leave yourself with, whatever. But once you're there and the lights are on and you're holding your signaling device and you're behind the podium looking at Alex Trebek, like, what else could happen in that moment to distract you from remembering you have to wager enough to cover third place? Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like game shows to a certain degree sort of make their money on that. I talked about it in terms of Match Game a few weeks ago, that Match Game itself is easy. It's easy to hear blank split and say banana and win. But when you're there in front of half a dozen celebrities and Alec Baldwin and the lights and the microphone and the audience and all of that, and you don't want to look stupid, silly things come out. You're not guaranteed to give the correct answer under those circumstances every time.
hmm Yeah, I felt I got lucky. I think I got lucky. Obviously, I know a couple of things, so I did win. You can't just luck into winning on Jeopardy, completely. But I things just fell into place, and I was so surprised, and I was intimidated by a lot of the other contestants there because I have a good amount of pop culture knowledge, but other trivia areas sometimes get a little bit foggy, sometimes a little bit hazy, and these are all trivia experts. They know, that they know everything, and here I am, like, why the hell am I here? But I held my own. I'm surprised.
That's great. Yeah, that imposter syndrome is no joke. And I feel like in
hmm
terms of Jeopardy in particular, I mean, it's
hmm
like getting invited to be a Harvard student for a day. You know,
hmm
like, how did I get here? What have I done to deserve being here? I can't do that. But once you win that first game, I imagine that feeling goes away a little bit because now you're entering the game as having already been a champion. Like, you're a champion walking into game two.
Yes. And so I taped over 2 tape days. So I taped on that Friday and then come back to tape the next day. I taped Friday's episode because they tape 5 days in a day, 5 episodes in a day. So I taped on Monday and then I came back on, I'm sorry, I'm getting my days straight. You tape on Tuesday and then you come back and you tape on Wednesday. So I came back to tape for the beginning of the week on Wednesday and they do announce like, okay, so we have a returning champion here in this, and it's Brandon. And I'm like, oh, and you can tell that either they are intimidated or they want to knock you off. And it kind of cool to have that type of person look at you, though everyone else in the room look at you. It's like, yeah, this is the guy. Okay, we're gonna take him down. But then I had a little bit of bravado, like I already won, so you know, I'm already good. Let's just go and just see how this shakes out. And
That's right. Come get it.
come get it. It's fine.
Go get it.
I
Yep.
won once. I'm a champion. Hey, I'm good. I don't have to win any other times. I'm good. Just come at me. And
That's excellent.
yeah.
Well, I just, the effect of winning a game of Jeopardy, the effect that can have on somebody's confidence and on somebody's, and I'm thinking about what you described when you talked about your time on Millionaire, how you were sort of second guessing yourself. And, in retrospect, you could have answered those questions without the lifelines that you used, but you wanted to be sure because you didn't really trust your first judgment. To be able to take that person and instill them with that confidence to then go into a show like Jeopardy and say, I already won. You going to come get it or not? Like that to me is just, that speaks to the power of that kind of TV and just what a show like Jeopardy can do,
And I'm not saying that I was cocky. I never was cocky at any point.
Sure.
But it was like, I got what I got. I did it. If you knock me off, then kudos on you. But I'm just gonna go there. The nerves, they lowered a lot.
Yeah. Let's talk about the $100,000 pyramid. Now, you mentioned in previous times that we talked, kind of setting this up, that this was an important show for you, and this is your favorite game, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it is my favorite game of all time. I love Pyramid.
What is it about Pyramid? Because I think it's like a sport. It's like word communication as a sport. Like, that's why I love it. Why do you love it?
It is words. It is communicating with words. You are trying to convince someone to convey something to someone else. And it's I don't know. The gameplay, seems so tight. It is so interesting for me to look at how people interact, what verbal cues, what physical cues you give to another person. The bonus game for the pyramid is, I will tell any and everyone, is the best bonus round that ever existed. It's such a tight 60 seconds, and you are racing against the clock trying to ascend a pyramid using smart clues. Communication. It's all about communication and getting and conveying something to someone else. And it just seems so essential and so elementary in a way, but it's very difficult.
Now, that is a show that especially talking about the current version on ABC, which is the one you appeared on. You appeared on the primetime with Michael Strahan as host. I have heard from a lot of contestants that were on Pyramid, and some of them had wonderful experiences. Some of them felt like it was a very tense atmosphere on set, and that behind the scenes or when the cameras weren't on, they didn't have the opportunity to be made as comfortable as, say, you and I were when we were on Millionaire with Meredith. Is that something that speaks to your experience on Pyramid as well?
I could see that. I think that I had done so many game shows by that point to where when I got on set, I self-soothed. I was able to get it together for myself. I didn't need anyone else to kind of, there, that's okay. I did it on my own. And especially since, like I told you about, it's expressing the excitement that you have for the game. I got there and I locked the hell in. I was there. I'm like, I'm going to do any and everything I can. So other people might have needed that, and no offense, because especially if it's your first game show. But for me, I just did it. When I got on set, I was there.
That's good. I think that there is a moment for people who have been on multiple shows where, or there's maybe not a moment, but a show that they get on where at that point, they're used to the process. They're no longer intimidated by the cameras or the process itself. They're just there to do the thing.
That's exactly how I felt. I was there to do the thing on the game. That is my absolute favorite game of all time.
Who was your celebrity on Pyramid?
So first celebrity was Ashanti, and second one was Clay Aiken, and I just happened to be a fan of both of them. And I knew when I talked to them, I knew there was a couple of songs I liked from each of them. So I was able to break the ice and talk to them in that way. So yeah,
that's wonderful. I bet that makes them feel encouraged as well too. I always sympathize for the role of like celebrity partner on shows like Pyramid, because you're there, you're getting paid scale or whatever it is you get paid to be there, and you're responsible in a big part, not solely because it's a team of two, but you have a responsibility for your contested sort of financial success in that atmosphere.
Can I tell you? So I actually ended up having to do a lot of the work soothing my Ashanti. So when I got there, so the process, the way it works, you get on stage. Both the celebrities sit with the contestants. They talk for a little bit. It's not much conversation, but you introduce yourselves and all. And Ashanti, when I spoke to her, was very aloof. And I could tell she was extremely nervous. She was on her phone. She was looking elsewhere and everything. And so I would try to break the ice and talk to her. And I had the ability to do that because I'd been on so many game shows, and other individuals, other contestant coordinators, other people did that for me when I was on it. So I would say, how are you doing? How are you feeling? That one song you did, I really, really liked. You were really good. You were really wonderful. I think you're amazing. How are you feeling about the show? We're going to be great. We're honest. So whatever you do, however you do, this is an experience for me. I'm excited to be here. Don't worry about it. So me being able to talk to her, I think put her a little bit more of an ease, and she did better with me than she did with the other contestants. I can say that. So
that's excellent. Well, that's good strategy. Not, I'm sure it came from the heart, but I feel like that's also good strategy as well. There's that mutual responsibility to make each other feel comfortable so that the whole team functions properly.
Yeah, I did. It was strategy. And yeah, I did want her to feel good and actually relate to her, but it was strategy. Clay Aiken did not need that. Clay Aiken, loved him. He was great. But chatty. And I was like, okay, he's so chatty and everything. I know that we're going to have a good rapport right off the bat. Ashanti closed off. Because I'm certain they don't get that much prep. You have contestants who were on in the 80s, the early 90s in Pyramid. They would stay the entire week. They would be experts. They would go back and forth and do these practice games with the show. And that's not like that in this version. And so
Right.
it's kind of one and done. And I can imagine them being really, really nervous.
Well, back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, you had celebrities who didn't appear on Pyramid so much to promote themselves as they did to play the game. I mean, you had celebrities like, Betty White was one of them. Charlie Siebert was one of them. Nipsey Russell, Soupy Sales. I'm thinking about all these like amazing who else? Oh God, there's just so many. Tony Randall, who like
Nathan
they had.
Cook.
Nathan Cook was another one. Constance McCashin was another one. So many of them that didn't necessarily have movies to promote. Sometimes they did, but a lot of the times they were on the show because they loved Henry Pollock II. That was another one who was on the 80s, who was a king of Pyramid, who, he wasn't a movie of the week or anything like that, but he just loved playing the game. And so you had people that cared so much about the game. And I'm sure celebrities do to a certain degree, but nowhere near what it used to be back then. I think you're correct in describing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that I like to not only reflect on myself, but I like to have my guests on this show reflect on, especially when we're talking about people like us who have been in this sort of game show fan community for as long as we have, and we've seen the drama, and we've, heard things about shows that we didn't necessarily want to hear, and we've become involved in this world to a degree that years ago, I don't know that I would have ever believed I'd be able to. I like to reflect on what it feels like to think back on your time as a kid watching and loving game shows and being afraid of the dragon on Tic-Tac-Toe, but loving the flashing lights and the energy and the optimism that shows like that project. And compare it with where you are now, having been a Hollywood Squares tournament champion, a 2-day Jeopardy winner, a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, having met Whoopi Goldberg. Like, do you ever think about that journey? And do you ever compare those two? Do you ever just sit back and just like wonder how that all happened for you?
Yeah, good question. And don't forget Pyramid.
I didn't forget Pyramid. Oh, no, don't worry. I didn't forget Pyramid either.
But that's because Pyramid is my favorite game of all time, actually. Do I think about that journey? Oh, my goodness. I don't know. I don't think I do. I get amazed every single time when someone says, you're good, you should go on TV. Here's a platform, play this game on TV. I will say that I never thought it would happen. As a little kid, I never thought I would do anything like this. If you would have told me at age 3, you're going to be up there one day, I would have said absolutely not. And I at times I just don't know how I did it. If you had to,
sure. If you had to sort of quantify it and think about your personal traits, what do you think about yourself made you worthy of these experiences? What do you think it was about you that made yourself a good contestant for all these shows?
I think I showed my excitement for the genre. That's what made me a good contestant on these shows. I actually also really liked the shows that I was on. So I appreciated the gameplay. I never went on a game show or tried out for a game show for the money, which money's good. And we need money. But I wanted to go on for the experience because I love them. And that's what gives me the edge, I think, because I actually love the genre and I only audition for shows that I really, really like.
Tell Us About Yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Christian Carrion, from my studio in beautiful downtown Lancaster City, Pennsylvania. Co-executive producer Cory Anotado. Researcher Chuck Donegan. This has been a production of BuzzerBlog, the most popular game show website in the world, in partnership with the National Archives of Game Show History at the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. For more information, visit museumofplay.org. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Christian Carrion. Good night. Tell Us About Yourself, Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, one of the largest history museums in the United States and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700. Tell Us About Yourself is sponsored by bonusround.ca, streaming Canada's classic game shows on demand. Dive into the golden age of television with thousands of episodes of Canadian series that defined an era from anywhere in the world, all for just $1.99 a month. From iconic shows like Let's Make a Deal and Definition to cult classics like Bumper Stumpers and The Mad Dash, bonusround.ca brings you timeless entertainment that's fun, enlightening, and affordable. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, relive the magic of Canadian television history. Subscribe now at bonusround.ca for $1.99 and turn every night into game show night. And by The Inn at Leola Village. Nestled in the heart of picturesque Pennsylvania, the Inn at Leola Village is a sanctuary of luxury and relaxation. Indulge in the timeless beauty of their historic suites, each meticulously designed to transport you to a bygone era of elegance and grace. Experience the culinary delights of their award-winning Italian restaurant, where every dish is a masterpiece crafted from the finest local ingredients. From romantic getaways to corporate retreats, the Inn at Leola Village offers a haven for every occasion. Unwind at the spa, stroll through the lush gardens, and let the stress of everyday life melt away. Make your reservation today at theinnatleolavillage.com or call the front desk at area code 717-656-7002. The Inn at Leola Village, an oasis of luxury.